Today, we're diving into a topic that has been buzzing around the world of global politics and diplomacy. President Joe Biden is finally visiting Africa for the first time. But before you celebrate, there's a twist to this long-awaited visit. You won't believe the real reasons behind his sudden decision, and trust me, it's not what it seems. Let's break it down. Let's start by going back to December 2022 at the US-Africa Summit. Biden stood before African leaders and promised to visit the continent during his term. It was a big promise, one that many hoped would signal a new era in US-Africa relations. Fast forward to today, he's finally planning a visit, but here's the catch. It's happening at the very end of his term. You might be asking yourself, why now? Well, let's remember that Biden initially postponed his visit, stating he would come in February 2025 after he was re-elected. But hold up, Biden has since announced that he isn't running for re-election. So, what changed? Why is he now rushing to visit Africa before he leaves office? And which country is he heading to and why? Before we continue, just a gentle reminder to like and share our videos. Also, subscribe to the channel to stay informed on the latest African economic, political, and social developments, and explore how global geopolitics impact the continent. Now let's continue. This sudden trip has left many wondering, why now? Let's be real, Biden is a lame duck president at this point. He's wrapping up his term, so what real impact can he make? More importantly, is this visit truly for the benefit of African nations, or does it serve other interests? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Now here's where things get interesting. One of the main reasons for Biden's visit is to counter Russian influence on the African continent. Let that sink in. The US is worried about Russia's growing relationships with African nations. Leaders like Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, Assimi Goïta of Mali, and Abdourahmane Tiani of Niger are turning away from former colonial powers like France and the West, and they're looking elsewhere, primarily to Russia. Russia has been making waves in Africa, offering partnerships that are starkly different from what the US or France have offered in the past. It's no secret that Russia's growing military and economic ties with Africa are seen as a challenge by the West. African leaders are no longer buying into the typical Western neocolonial narrative. They're seeking partnerships that respect their sovereignty and provide tangible benefits. What do you think? Is Biden's visit too little, too late? Another major reason for Biden's visit. Raw materials. Yes, it's the same old story. African nations are rich in resources: cobalt, copper, lithium, oil, and more. And these are essential for powering the future of industries, especially in sectors like electric vehicles, clean energy, and tech. The US is eyeing these resources, particularly as China and Russia ramp up their influence across the continent. If we're honest, it feels like we're witnessing another chapter in the scramble for Africa. African nations have been independent for decades, yet they still face foreign powers vying for their resources. What's different now is that African leaders like Traoré and Goïta are pushing back against this narrative, seeking to control their resources and make decisions that benefit their people, not foreign industries. Let's dig deeper. Does Biden's visit reflect a genuine interest in Africa's development, or is it more about protecting American industries? His administration has talked about clean energy, infrastructure development, and strengthening democracy, but the timing of this visit raises eyebrows. Why wait until the end of his term? And why focus so heavily on economic partnerships that seem to benefit the US more than the African nations? This is where we get into the heart of the issue: neocolonialism. The same exploitation patterns are playing out, where African nations are seen as resource hubs rather than equal partners. Biden's agenda may be dressed up as diplomacy, but is it really just about ensuring a steady supply of raw materials for American businesses? What do you think? Share your thoughts below. This brings us back to Russia. African nations are increasingly turning to Moscow for partnerships, from military support to infrastructure projects. It's a stark departure from the days when Africa's primary relationships were with the West. Biden's administration sees this as a threat, hence the rush to strengthen ties with Africa. But let's not forget that Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, and other US leaders have previously overlooked Africa. There's a reason why African leaders are skeptical of US involvement. It feels reactive, like the US is only paying attention because Russia is gaining ground. For example, during the US-Africa summit, Biden pledged $55 billion in investments over 3 years. But what has really changed since then? African leaders like Ibrahim Traoré are making it clear that they want partnerships based on respect and mutual benefit, not foreign control of their resources. Let's give credit where it's due. African leaders are taking control of their futures. In Burkina Faso, President Ibrahim Traoré is leading efforts to distance the country from France and other Western powers. He's working on economic projects that prioritize local development over foreign profit. In Mali, Assimi Goïta has been vocal about rejecting France's military presence and seeking alliances that better serve Mali's security needs, especially in the fight against jihadists. It's clear that African leaders are no longer interested in being pawns in the geopolitical game between the US, Russia, and China. They are asserting their sovereignty and making decisions that benefit their people first. Biden's visit, at the very end of his term, feels like an afterthought in comparison to the decisive actions taken by African leaders themselves. One of the key projects Biden will be discussing during his visit to Angola is the Lobito Corridor. This ambitious plan seeks to connect copper and cobalt mines in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Zambia to global markets via Angola. On the surface, it seems like a positive initiative, part of the Global Partnership for Infrastructure and Investment, PGII. But here's the thing. Projects like this have been touted as win-wins for Africa before, only for African countries to find themselves on the losing end. The question remains, will this really benefit Africans? Or is it just another way to extract resources for the benefit of foreign powers? What's your take on this project? Let me know in the comments. We can't ignore China's Belt and Road Initiative in this conversation. China has invested heavily in Africa, building infrastructure, roads, ports, and more. Many African countries see China as a more reliable partner compared to the West, but is it really? While the US is now scrambling to catch up with projects like the Lobito Corridor, African nations are caught in the middle. They have to navigate the complex relationships with Russia, China, and the US, all while asserting their independence and ensuring their resources benefit their people. Will Biden's visit change anything in this dynamic? Or is it just another episode in the global game for influence over Africa? Let me know what you think in the comments below. As we wrap up, let's be clear. Africa doesn't need last-minute gestures from outgoing world leaders. The continent is stepping into its own, with leaders like Ibrahim Traoré showing the world that Africa can chart its own course without relying on old colonial powers. So, is Biden's visit too little, too late? Does it signal a genuine shift in US-Africa relations? Or is it just another attempt to maintain influence in the face of Russia and China? Share your thoughts, drop a comment, and let's keep this conversation going. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more news analysis, political commentary, and global politics content. As always, I appreciate you tuning in and letting me break down these complex geopolitical topics. Let me know what you think about the issues down in the comments below. Looking forward to that discussion. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you in our next video.